The giant meeting hall on Nexus Prime was filled with angry voices. Ambassador Zektar stood at his speaking platform, his crystal-like body glowing brighter as his frustration grew. He had been talking about the same problem for months, and nothing had changed. "The humans will not answer us," Zektar said, his voice echoing through the massive chamber. "We have sent them messages for 15 years. We have invited them to join our council. We have offered them trade deals and friendship. They ignore everything we send them." The other aliens in the meeting hall made various sounds of agreement. Some buzzed, some clicked, and others made noises that sounded like grinding metal. All of them were frustrated with the humans. General Mordak slammed his huge fist on his platform. He was from the Keth species, and they were known for being warriors. His scales were dark green, and his eyes glowed red when he was angry. "The humans mock us by staying silent," he growled. "My people demand action. We should force them to join the council." Far away from the alien meeting, Commander Ryan Blake sat in his control room on Luna Base. This was Earth's main space station that orbited around the moon. Ryan was watching the alien messages come in on his computer screens. The messages had been arriving every day for many years. "Sir, we got another bunch of messages today," said Lieutenant Kelly Morrison. She was young and had only been working at Luna Base for 2 years. Her job was to translate the alien languages and figure out what they wanted. 17 different alien species sent us invitations to their meetings again. Ryan looked at the translated messages on his screen. The aliens seemed to be getting more upset each time they sent a message. At first, their messages had been polite and friendly. Now they sounded demanding and impatient. "Do any of these messages sound dangerous, Kelly?" Ryan asked. Kelly shook her head. "No, sir. They still seem to want to talk, but they are definitely getting angry that we won't answer them back." Meanwhile, deep underground in a mountain in Colorado, Admiral Jack Harrison was reading secret reports about what the aliens were doing in space. The reports came from spy satellites that watched the nearby star systems. What he saw worried him. "They are building something big out there," Admiral Harrison told Captain Lisa Cooper, who was his assistant. "These are not just small ships anymore. They are building huge space stations and what looks like government buildings." Dr. Alan Mitchell worked in his laboratory, trying to understand the alien languages better. He was Earth's best expert on alien communication. What he discovered made him very worried. The new messages were not just invitations anymore. They contained words like force and make them obey and punishment. Back on Nexus Prime, the Alien Council was getting more frustrated every day. They had never met a species that completely ignored them. Usually, when they found new intelligent life, those species were excited to join the galactic community. The humans were different. "Maybe they are too primitive to understand our messages," suggested Ambassador Earl. She was from an ocean world, and her people looked like giant jellyfish. "Their technology seems very basic compared to ours." "Basic species do not stay completely silent like this," argued General Mordak. "They are choosing to ignore us. That is much worse than being primitive." The aliens did not know that humans had been very busy during those 15 years. While the aliens sent messages, humans had been building things, secret things, military things, things that would surprise the aliens very much. In hidden bases around Earth, thousands of people worked on projects that most humans did not know about. They built new types of ships. They created new weapons. They developed new technologies that had never been seen before in the galaxy. President Helen Carter sat in her office in Washington, reading reports about what the aliens were doing. The report said that many alien fleets were moving toward Earth. This was not good news. "Madam President," said Secretary of Defense Robert Clark, "our space watchers are seeing big alien fleets gathering about 50 light-years away from Earth. We think they are planning to come here." Director Patricia Wells added more bad news. "We count between 3,000 and 5,000 alien ships. This is not a friendly visit anymore." President Carter looked at the pictures of the alien fleets on her computer. "How long until they get here?" "About 6 weeks, Admiral Harrison said through a video call. "But Madam President, there is something strange about their ships." "What do you mean strange?" "They are not warships. They look like police ships. They think they are coming to arrest us, not fight a war." President Carter smiled, but it was not a happy smile. They think we will just give up without a fight. Deep in the Pacific Ocean, Captain Greg Stone was getting his submarine ready. The USS Leviathan was not like any submarine that had ever been built before. It was huge, longer than 3 football fields. It was also the secret command center for something called Operation Silent Thunder. "All stations ready, Captain," said Lieutenant Commander Amy Foster. She was in charge of the ship's weapons. "The fleet is waiting for your orders." Captain Stone nodded. For 15 years, while the aliens had been sending messages, Earth had been preparing for war. They had built the most powerful military force in the galaxy. The aliens had no idea what was coming. "Send the signal to all our forces," Captain Stone ordered. "Let's show these visitors what happens when they mistake human silence for weakness." The aliens thought humans were primitive and weak because they would not answer messages. They were about to learn that humans had been quiet for a very different reason. Humans had been busy getting ready for exactly this moment. Earth had not been ignoring the aliens. Earth had been preparing to teach the galaxy a lesson about underestimating humanity. The aliens wanted humans to come to their meetings and follow their rules. Instead, they were about to discover that humans preferred to make their own rules. The stage was set for a confrontation that would change how the galaxy viewed humanity forever. The aliens were coming with their police ships, expecting humans to surrender. Humans were waiting with something much more impressive than anyone in the galaxy could imagine. The emergency meeting of the Galactic Council was the biggest one in decades. Representatives from all 43 alien species came to Nexus Prime. The meeting hall was carved from a single giant asteroid and could hold millions of beings. Today, it felt very tense. High Counselor Vex Zahri called the meeting to order. She was the leader of the ethereal communion, and her people looked like ghosts made of light. When she moved her hand, strange energy waves rippled through the air around her. "We are here to decide what to do about the humans," she announced. 47 years of ignored messages cannot continue." General Mordak stood up and slammed, his fist down hard. Several smaller aliens jumped in fear. "They make fun of us by staying silent," he roared. "The Keth demand immediate action. We should attack them now." Legal Arbiter Zephyr was a robot-like being that knew all the galactic laws. Its mechanical voice echoed through the hall as it spoke. "The humans have broken 17 galactic laws by refusing to join the Council. According to Section 7.2 of our legal code, we must force them to obey our rules." Ambassador Trill was different from the others. Her people were plant-like, and her bark-covered skin rustled when she moved. "Maybe we should be more patient," she suggested. "Some species need more time to understand galactic civilization." 15 years is not a patience period," snapped Admiral Krex. He was from the Stellar Federation, and his people looked like large lizards with scales that changed color when they were angry. "This is deliberate defiance of our authority." Earth President Helen Carter was in her office reading the latest spy reports. The alien communications had increased dramatically in the past few weeks. The translation computers were picking up more and more aggressive language. "Madam President," said Secretary of Defense Robert Clark as he placed a top-secret folder on her desk, "our deep space monitoring stations are detecting massive alien fleet movements. At least 12 different species are gathering their ships, about 50 light-years from Earth." Director of Central Intelligence Patricia Wells had more troubling news. "We estimate they are assembling between 3,000 and 5,000 ships. This is definitely not a diplomatic mission anymore." President Carter studied the tactical displays that showed where the alien fleets were gathering. "How much time do we have before they reach us?" "At their current speed, approximately 6 weeks," Admiral Harrison reported through a secure video link from his command center. "But Madam President, there is something important about their ship types." "What about them?" "They are not military warships. These appear to be enforcement vessels. They have heavy shields but light weapons. They are planning what they think will be a police action, not a real war." President Carter leaned back in her chair. A cold smile crossed her face. "They expect us to surrender without a fight." Meanwhile, far below the surface of the Pacific Ocean, Captain Greg Stone was overseeing the final preparations aboard the USS Leviathan. The massive submarine was humanity's most advanced stealth vessel and the mobile command center for Operation Silent Thunder. The ship was longer than 3 football fields and equipped with technology that was decades ahead of anything else on Earth. "All stations report ready, Captain," announced Lieutenant Commander Amy Foster from her position at the tactical station. "The entire fleet is in position and waiting for orders." Captain Stone nodded grimly. Humanity had spent the last 15 years since first alien contact not preparing for diplomacy, but building the largest and most advanced military force in human history. While the aliens had been sending polite messages, Earth had been turning itself into the most heavily fortified planet in the galaxy. "Signal all commands," Stone ordered. "Phase 1 is authorized. Let's show our visitors what happens when they mistake human silence for weakness." Back on Nexus Prime, the Galactic Council was reaching a decision. High Counselor Vex Ari had listened to hours of debate. Some species wanted immediate military action. Others preferred more diplomatic attempts. A few suggested economic sanctions. But they all agreed on one thing: humanity's silence could not continue. "The decision is made," Vex Ari announced. "We will send an enforcement fleet to the human system. They will be given one final opportunity to join the Council willingly. If they refuse, we will establish galactic authority over their planet by force." The vote was unanimous. 43 species agreed that humanity needed to be brought into line with galactic law. They had no idea that their enforcement fleet was flying directly into the most sophisticated military trap in galactic history. General Mordak was chosen to lead the enforcement fleet. As he prepared his ships, he felt confident that this would be a simple operation. Humans had primitive technology and no experience with galactic warfare. His fleet of 5,000 ships represented the combined authority of the entire galactic community. No single planet could resist such overwhelming force. "Prepare the standard enforcement protocols," General Mordak ordered his staff. "These humans will learn that defying the Galactic Council has consequences." Admiral Krex, who would serve as second in command, studied the intelligence reports about human technology. "Our scouts report that they have achieved basic faster-than-light travel," he told his officers. "Their weapons technology appears to be roughly equivalent to what most species had when they first joined the Council. This should be a straightforward enforcement action." On Earth, deep inside the command bunkers beneath Cheyenne Mountain, Admiral Harrison was coordinating with military leaders around the world. The alien fleet was exactly where their models had predicted it would be. Everything was proceeding according to plan. "All defensive positions are ready," reported General Kate Murphy from her command post at the Pentagon. "Our orbital platforms are armed and operational. The lunar bases are at full combat readiness. Our deep space fleet is in position and waiting." Dr. Sarah Kim, working from her laboratory aboard the space station Olympus, was monitoring alien communications. "Admiral, they are definitely planning what they consider a police action. Their communications suggest they expect minimal resistance." Admiral Harrison smiled grimly. "Perfect. Let them think we are helpless primitives, right? Up until the moment we demonstrate otherwise." The alien enforcement fleet began its final approach to the Sol system. 5,000 ships representing the combined military might of galactic civilization moved toward Earth with the confidence of beings who had never encountered serious resistance. They had no idea that they were about to meet a species that had spent 15 years preparing for exactly this moment. While they had been sending messages and holding meetings, humanity had been building something that would change their understanding of warfare forever. The aliens were about to learn that human silence had not been a sign of weakness or ignorance. It had been the sound of a species getting ready to introduce itself to the galaxy in a way that no one would ever forget. The alien enforcement fleet appeared at the edge of the solar system like a massive wall of metal and energy. 5,000 ships dropped out of faster-than-light travel in perfect formation. They arranged themselves in what they called an enforcement pattern, designed to show overwhelming but controlled power. Fleet Commander Zixtel stood on the bridge of his massive flagship, the Cosmic Authority. He felt confident that this display of force would finally make the stubborn humans understand their situation. His ship was 3 miles long and carried enough firepower to destroy a small moon. Begin standard enforcement broadcasting, Zixtel ordered his communications officer. Inform the humans they have 72 standard time units to surrender their government to council authority. The message went out on all frequencies in every known language. It was designed to sound official and threatening. People of Earth, you have ignored the lawful authority of the Galactic Council for 47 cycles. You will now submit to council oversight or face the consequences of your defiance. Deep inside the NORAD command center beneath Cheyenne Mountain, Admiral Harrison watched the alien fleet's arrival on his tactical displays. He was almost smiling. Right on schedule, he told his staff. They are taking positions exactly where our computer models predicted they would. President Carter was now in the heavily fortified command bunker beneath the Rocky Mountains with her entire cabinet. She watched the tactical displays showing the alien fleet positioning itself around Earth. Admiral, you have permission to proceed with Operation Thunder Reply. Admiral Harrison turned to his communications officer. Colonel Peters, please send our response to the Galactic Council. The response was very short, transmitted in perfect galactic standard language. Message received. Our answer follows. What happened next would be studied in military schools across the galaxy for hundreds of years. The space around Earth suddenly came alive with energy signatures as humanity's real defensive fleet revealed itself. Ships appeared from behind moon bases, uncloaked from asteroid hiding spots, and rose up from the depths of Earth's oceans where they had been waiting. But these were not the primitive vessels the aliens had expected to see. Captain Stone watched from the USS Leviathan as 1,000 human warships took their positions in a perfect sphere around Earth. Each ship represented decades of human engineering focused on a single goal, making anyone who threatened Earth think very carefully about their life choices. The alien sensors were immediately overwhelmed by what they were detecting. These were not just ships. They were technological marvels that made the alien enforcement fleet look like toy boats. By the void, whispered Fleet Commander Zixtel, as his tactical officer tried to read the sensor data. Sir, their vessels, the energy signatures are unlike anything in our databases. The smallest ships in their fleet are showing more power than our biggest dreadnoughts. Commander Jake Morrison was the captain of the UES Thunderbolt, one of humanity's newest destroyers. He opened a communication channel to the alien fleet. Galactic Council vessels. This is the United Earth Space Forces. You are currently surrounded by our defensive fleet. You have exactly 1 hour to withdraw beyond the orbit of Pluto, or we will consider your presence an act of war. The silence that followed was complete and absolute. Dr. Sarah Kim was monitoring alien communications from her laboratory aboard the space station Olympus. Admiral, they are experiencing what we might call technological shock. Their military advisors are frantically trying to analyze our ship configurations and failing completely. On the alien flagship, tactical experts scrambled to understand what their sensors were telling them. The human ships did not match any known design principles. They were sleek, dark, and radiated a kind of controlled menace that spoke of serious military thinking. Sir, reported the Altarian tactical officer, his crystal body flickering with confusion, preliminary scans suggest their weapon systems operate on principles we do not recognize, and their shielding technology appears to be impossible according to our understanding of physics. Admiral Krex studied the tactical displays with growing alarm. How many ships did our intelligence reports say they possessed? Fewer than 100 primitive vessels, sir. I am counting 1,000 ships, each of which could individually engage our entire fleet and probably win. Admiral Krex paused, studying the perfect formation surrounding Earth. Signal the fleet command. We may have seriously underestimated this species. General Mordak was having trouble accepting what his sensors were telling him. His people, the Keth, had built their entire civilization around military superiority. They had the most advanced weapons in the galaxy, or so they had thought until this moment. Run the scans again, he ordered his weapons officer. These readings cannot be accurate. Sir, I have run the scans 17 times. The readings are consistent. The human ships are generating energy signatures that exceed our most powerful weapons by factors we cannot calculate. On the human side, the crews were calm and professional. They had trained for this moment for years. Every ship captain knew exactly what to do and when to do it. Captain Lisa Chen commanded the UES Valkyrie, one of humanity's newest battleships. Her ship was positioned directly between Earth and the alien flagship. She monitored the alien communications with interest. "Ma'am," reported her tactical officer, "the alien fleet is requesting immediate reinforcements. They are asking for their actual war fleets, not just these enforcement ships." Captain Chen smiled coldly. "Signal Fleet Command. Request permission to show them why reinforcements would be a very bad idea." The alien fleet was beginning to understand that they had made a terrible mistake. These were not primitive humans, who would surrender when faced with superior numbers. These were humans who had spent 15 years preparing for exactly this confrontation. Fleet Commander Zixtel received a priority message from the Galactic Council. High Counselor Vexahari wanted to know why the enforcement action was taking so long. "Honorable Council," Zixtel transmitted back, trying to keep the panic out of his voice. "The human military capabilities were significantly underestimated in our intelligence reports." "Fleet Commander," came the reply, "you have 5,000 of the galaxy's finest ships under your command. Surely you can handle one world of primitives." Zixtel looked at his tactical displays showing the human fleet surrounding his forces. Each human ship was a masterpiece of military engineering that made his own flagship look like an antique. "Honorable Council, with respect, these are not primitives." The hour was almost up. The human ships maintained their perfect formation, dark and menacing against the stars. Each vessel radiated the kind of quiet confidence that comes from knowing you have the biggest guns in the fight. Admiral Harrison received a signal from President Carter. "Admiral, they still do not seem to understand what they are dealing with. Permission granted to provide an educational demonstration." "Understood. Madame President, initiating demonstration protocol." The aliens were about to receive a lesson in human military capability that would change galactic civilization forever. They had come expecting to police a primitive world. Instead, they had found themselves surrounded by a fleet that could probably conquer half the galaxy if it wanted to. The demonstration was about to begin, and the galaxy would never be the same. The standoff lasted exactly 59 minutes and 30 seconds. Fleet Commander Zixtel had spent almost every minute of that hour in increasingly desperate communication with the Galactic Council, trying to explain that the primitive humans had somehow managed to field a fleet that made their enforcement armada look like children's toys. "Honorable Council," Zixtel transmitted, his voice carefully controlled to hide the panic his crew was feeling. "The human military capabilities were significantly underestimated in our intelligence reports." High Counselor Vex Ahri's response came through subspace communication. "Fleet Commander, you have 5,000 of the galaxy's finest ships under your command. Surely you can handle one world of primitives." Admiral Harrison was monitoring the alien communications from his command. Center deep beneath the Colorado Mountains, he turned to President Carter, who was watching everything from the secure bunker. "Madam President, they still do not understand what they are dealing with. Permission to provide a demonstration?" President Carter nodded grimly. "Make it educational." "Admiral, Captain Emma Lewis commanded the UES Harbinger, one of Earth's experimental heavy cruisers. When she received her orders, she felt a professional satisfaction. All stations, this is the captain. We are authorized to demonstrate human defensive capabilities. Target the asteroid field in Sector 7, full power, single shot." The Harbinger's main cannon was a weapon that existed purely because human engineers had asked themselves what would happen if they tried to make a gun that could shoot small stars. The weapon began charging with a low hum that vibrated through the ship's entire structure. Lieutenant Commander Ben Taylor was the Harbinger's weapons officer. He had trained for this moment for 3 years. Target locked. Asteroid field bears 27 Mark IV. Distance 50,000 kilometers. Weapon charged and ready. Fire. The beam that shot out from the Harbinger lasted for exactly 2.7 seconds. When the light faded, the asteroid field that had been orbiting in that region for millions of years was simply gone. Not destroyed, not scattered into pieces, but completely vaporized down to the molecular level. The silence on the alien fleets communication channels was profound and terrifying. Dr. Mitchell was monitoring alien communications from his linguistic center on Earth. He began picking up what could only be described as panic. "Admiral, their fleet is experiencing what we might call reality adjustment. I'm getting fragments about impossible energy discharge and planet-killer weapons on a patrol ship." General Mordak of the Keth hegemony stared at his tactical displays, in complete disbelief. His people had built their entire reputation on having superior military technology. "Our most powerful dreadnought could not generate 1/10 of that energy output," he whispered to his aide. "And they did it from a ship that appears to be a destroyer-class vessel." Ambassador Trill of the Verdant World suddenly understood why the humans had been so quiet for 15 years. "They were not ignoring us," she said to her communications officer. "They were preparing." Commander Jake Morrison opened another channel to the alien fleet. His voice was calm and professional. "Galactic Council vessels, that was a demonstration of our standard defensive capabilities. You now have 30 minutes to withdraw beyond Pluto's orbit. Any ship remaining in our solar system after that deadline will be considered hostile." Captain Stone was coordinating the human response from the USS Leviathan, hidden deep beneath the Pacific Ocean. He watched his tactical displays as they showed the alien fleet beginning to move. But they were not advancing toward Earth. They were clearly struggling with the decision of whether to flee or fight an enemy they could not understand. "Sir," reported Lieutenant Amy Foster, "alien communications suggest they are requesting immediate reinforcements. Apparently they are asking for their actual war fleets, not just these enforcement vessels." Captain Stone smiled grimly. "Signal, Admiral Harrison. Request permission to show them why that would be a very bad idea." The second demonstration came from the UES Valkyrie, one of humanity's newest battleships. Captain Lisa Chen had been waiting for this moment. She targeted a dead moon on the outer edge of the solar system, a lifeless rock that was roughly the same size as Earth's moon. "Firing planet cracker," Captain Chen announced to her crew. The weapon she was about to use had originally been designed for asteroid mining. Human engineers had found ways to make mining equipment into weapons of unimaginable power. The beam struck the dead moon with precision that was almost artistic. The moon cracked exactly in half and began drifting apart in perfect mathematical precision. The two halves separated slowly like a piece of fruit being gently split open. The alien fleet's withdrawal began immediately. Fleet Commander Zixtel did not need to consult with his tactical officers. He did not need to wait for orders from the Galactic Council. He gave the order that would save his fleet and possibly prevent a galactic war. "All ships, begin immediate withdrawal. Set course for the rally point beyond this system. Maximum speed." Admiral, Krex of the Stellar Federation supported the retreat order without hesitation. "Signal all vessels we are leaving immediately. Do not engage the human fleet under any circumstances." General Mordak, whose warrior culture had never retreated from any battle, found himself agreeing with the withdrawal. "My tactical officers estimate that a single human battleship could destroy our entire enforcement fleet," he transmitted to his ship captains. "We are not equipped for this level of warfare." The alien fleet began moving away from Earth as quickly as their engines could carry them. 5,000 ships that had arrived with the confidence of galactic authority were now fleeing from a human demonstration of power that had lasted less than 6 seconds total. Dr. Sarah Kim monitored the alien communications as their fleet retreated. "Admiral, they are transmitting emergency signals to the Galactic Council. The words I am translating include impossible, unprecedented, and terrifying." On the alien flagship, Fleet Commander Zixtel was trying to compose a report that would explain to the Galactic Council how their enforcement mission had become a desperate retreat. How could he explain that the primitive humans possessed weapons that could destroy moons with casual ease? "Sir," his communications officer reported, "we are receiving priority signals from the Council. They want an immediate status report." Zixtel knew that his career was probably over, but he also knew that the truth had to be told. "Signal the Council. Inform them that the human military represents a level of technological advancement that exceeds anything in our databases. Recommend Immediate diplomatic contact and full withdrawal of all military assets from human space. The retreat continued for 6 hours. The alien fleet did not stop until they were well beyond Pluto's orbit. Even then, many of the ship captains wanted to keep going until they reached the edge of the solar system. Back on Earth, President Carter addressed the nation from the secure bunker. My fellow Americans and citizens of Earth, today we demonstrated to the galaxy that humanity will not be bullied or forced into submission. We have shown that our 15 years of silence were not weakness but preparation. Admiral Harrison reviewed the tactical reports from the demonstration. Perfect execution, he told his staff. The alien fleet is in full retreat and our message has been clearly received. Humanity is not a species that can be conquered by enforcement action. Captain Stone received new orders from Fleet Command. Phase 2 is authorized. Begin preparing for diplomatic contact. It appears the aliens want to talk now. The galaxy had learned an important lesson in those few minutes. Military superiority was not about having the most ships or the largest fleet. It was about having weapons so advanced that your enemies would rather negotiate than fight. And humanity had just announced to the galaxy that they were very interested in negotiation, but only from a position of strength that no one would ever question again. 3 weeks after what became known throughout the galaxy as the Sol demonstration, a completely different kind of delegation arrived at the edge of human space. This time, instead of enforcement vessels, the aliens sent their actual diplomatic corps, flying ships that broadcast peaceful intentions on every frequency they could manage. Ambassador Zektar himself led this delegation. He had volunteered for what many in the Galactic Council considered a suicide mission. The human response to their enforcement fleet had sent shockwaves through galactic civilization that were still being felt on every world. President Carter received the delegation aboard the USS Constitution, humanity's newest diplomatic vessel. The ship managed to be both welcoming and absolutely terrifying to anyone with functioning sensors. Its weapons were hidden, but the energy readings made it clear that this was a warship disguised as a diplomatic platform. Honored humans, Ambassador Zektar began, his translation device working overtime to convey appropriate levels of respect. The Galactic Council wishes to formally apologize for our misunderstanding regarding your civilization's status. Secretary of State Carol Williams led humanity's diplomatic team. She had been chosen for her ability to be polite while making it clear that humanity was not impressed by galactic authority. Ambassador Zektar, we appreciate the Galactic Council's revised perspective on human capabilities. Dr. Mitchell was serving as the human cultural liaison. He had spent weeks preparing for this moment, studying galactic diplomatic protocols. Ambassador, might I ask what prompted this change in your approach? Zektar's crystal-like features somehow managed to convey embarrassment. Honored Dr. Mitchell, when our enforcement fleet returned to Council space, our military analysts spent considerable time reviewing the sensor data from your demonstration. Our conclusions were sobering. Admiral Harrison was present as the military representative. He leaned forward slightly, his expression neutral but intimidating. And what conclusions were those? Your single ship's weapon output exceeded the combined firepower of our entire enforcement fleet by approximately 3,000%, Zektar admitted. The silence that followed was uncomfortable for everyone except the humans. And our tactical experts believe that was a deliberately limited demonstration. Captain Morrison, who was commanding the Constitution, nodded with professional calm. The Harbinger was operating at roughly 12% capacity during that demonstration. We did not want to damage any nearby astronomical bodies with the full power setting. The silence from the alien delegation was telling. General Mordak, who had insisted on being part of this diplomatic mission as a form of penance for his earlier aggressive stance, finally spoke up. Honored humans, the Keth hegemony has spent 10,000 years perfecting the art of warfare. In one afternoon, you demonstrated that our understanding of military technology is fundamentally inadequate. President Carter decided it was time for complete honesty. General, Admiral, Ambassador, the reason we did not respond to your initial communications was not arrogance or primitiveness. We spent those 15 years studying your messages, learning your languages, and analyzing the galactic political situation. Our conclusion, added Secretary Williams, was that joining your Galactic Council as a junior member would not serve humanity's interests. We preferred to develop our capabilities and approach galactic civilization as equals. Dr. Sarah Kim was now serving as humanity's chief xenologist. She presented her research findings to the alien delegation. Our analysis of galactic politics suggests a system where membership means subordination to established powers. Humanity prefers partnerships to patronage. Ambassador Trill of the Verdant Worlds, who had advocated for patience from the very beginning, asked the question that was on everyone's mind. What do humans want from galactic civilization? President Carter smiled genuinely for the first time since the aliens had arrived. Trade, cultural exchange, scientific collaboration, the same things most civilizations want, but we want them as partners, not as junior members seeking approval from senior civilizations. Admiral Harrison added, and we want them from a position where no one mistakes our peaceful intentions for weakness. The negotiations that followed would completely reshape galactic civilization. Humanity did not join the Galactic Council as a subordinate member. Instead, they established bilateral treaties with individual species, created new trade partnerships, and began cultural exchanges that enriched both human and alien civilizations. The first breakthrough came when the Verdant Worlds offered to share their agricultural technology in exchange for human medical advances. Ambassador Trill had been impressed by humanity's biological sciences, and her people needed new treatments for a plant disease that was affecting their homeworld. This is exactly the kind of partnership we hoped for, President Carter told Ambassador Trill during their private meeting. Mutual benefit based on mutual respect. General Mordak surprised everyone by requesting military technology exchanges. The Keth have always respected strength, he explained. We would be honored to learn from human tactical innovations, and we offer our own expertise in return. 6 months later, the first human embassy opened on Nexus Prime. It was not the office of a subordinate member of the Galactic Council, but the embassy of an independent power that had earned its place through demonstration rather than supplication. Captain Stone, now promoted to admiral and serving as humanity's military attaché of the galactic community, often found himself explaining human strategy to curious alien military officers. We skipped the meetings, he told a group of Keth tactical experts, but we definitely made an impression. The galaxy had learned several important lessons from humanity's approach to first contact. The most important was that just because someone does not answer your calls does not mean they are not listening. Sometimes they are just preparing a response that will ensure you never ignore them again. Ambassador Zektar, who had become something of an expert on human behavior, often spoke to other council members about the lessons learned. The humans taught us that silence does not always mean weakness, he would explain. Sometimes it means preparation. And humanity had learned something equally valuable about galactic civilization. Sometimes the best way to join a conversation is to demonstrate that you do not need permission to speak. The trade relationships that developed over the following years benefited everyone involved. Human technology, particularly in the areas of weapons development and military tactics, became highly sought after. In return, humans gained access to alien sciences that advanced their understanding of the universe by centuries. Dr. Mitchell established the first Interspecies Linguistic Institute, where humans and aliens worked together to develop better communication methods. His work became the foundation for all future diplomatic relations. 5 years after the Sol demonstration, Ambassador Zektar often found himself explaining to newer council members why the humans had their own section of the galactic map marked as independent territory, with a note that all approaches should use diplomatic protocols only. They never did join the council, newer members would ask. No, Zektar would respond with something resembling pride. But they did not need to. When you can vaporize asteroid fields with your patrol ships, galactic civilization tends to come to you. The galaxy was a very different place now. It was more respectful, more cautious, and significantly more aware that intelligence and technological capability did not always correlate with eagerness to join committees. And somewhere in the Sol system, humanity continued doing what it had always done best, preparing for the next challenge while hoping for peace but always ready for war.